938 Live. This is Talkback.
Now, she's been a strong advocate for individuals with special needs. She's spoken out strongly against gambling in Singapore. She's also suggested radical changes to our education system. All issues that I know all of you care about because we've talked about several of them on our shows over the years. Denise Phua is also an advocate of thinking more deeply about the kind of society we want to live in. And she's here with us today, Member of Parliament for Moulmein Kallang GRC and Mayor of the Central Singapore District, Denise Phua. You can call in with your questions or comments for her. What more do you think can be done for those with special needs in Singapore? Have you thought about the kind of society you want to live in? Now, good morning, Denise, and welcome to the studio, indeed. Now, you've had a long-running corporate career in the past. You became a full-time special needs volunteer. You then became president of the Autism Resource Centre, and you co-founded Pathlight School, Singapore's first autism-focused school that integrates mainstream academics with life skills as well. Now, you've done much, much more in this sector. Tell us more about why you joined politics in the first place.
Well, I didn't start out by wanting to join politics. In fact, it probably was something that my family and I did not expect. I think the ruling party, the PAP, probably got to know about me because of the advocacy that I did more than 10 years ago. I was the parent of a special needs child. I did not think that I should take the step of just migrating without putting in a fight, at least to see if I can make things better. And so that's how it all started. And because I was a management training consultant in the past, so I did all I could to apply the skills I had, put up papers, talking to the various people and so forth. And so even when I was approached to the proverbial tea party, I didn't even know it was a tea party, and to assess my suitability for politics, for example.
You thought it was just a tea party, but it was way more than that.
Yeah.
You mentioned migrating, and I know that you thought about this when your son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. First of all, tell us how it was discovered, and why did you consider migrating at that point?
Well, my son did not grow up normally like other children. At 2, he was still not very verbal, and he's still not very verbal. He's not mild, he's moderately autistic. And so when we found out, when it was confirmed, we of course still were very distraught. But being the people we are, I studied as much as I can, looked up the best consultants for him. And at that time, many of them were not Singaporeans, many expatriates. And then as I went through the journey, I just found something not right, that there are many other people and families who probably did not have as much resources or able to put in efforts as we. They were suffering a lot more. Some of them were not don't even have access to internet at the time, more than 10 years ago. So my husband and I thought something was not right, and we just wanted to stay put and see what we can do to the landscape of this country. And up to now, I think I'm not disappointed. Of course, I always want things to be faster. There's so many more people who need to be helped. But I'm happy that things progressed the way that I think in the last decade, because of I guess the Prime Minister and his cabinet, and many people who are a lot more open, many parents who now know a lot more. Things have changed a lot in the past decade.
Yes, indeed.
Two enabling master plans, for instance, since then put up by Minister Vivian and now Minister Chun Sing. We're gradually growing our Singapore brand of special education. Early years, much more is being done. Used to be you had to queue up quite a lot. Now, waitlist is still there, but much reduced. Many government-sponsored early intervention centers. There's now a universal subsidy. Doesn't matter how poor or rich you are, you still have a universal subsidy of $300 a month, for instance. The school years, MOE, the Ministry of Education, very, very active now. I'm very glad. I think we currently are not at the footnote or the appendix of the chapter now. Still much to be done, and especially for the adult years. Services, still the dearth. I think the models there are not very imaginative still. We are either looking at staying at home or going to work or going to a day activity center.
What would you like to see instead, or in addition to that?
I think we need to get to the space where it's not just somebody else have to catch the ball, but all of us to catch the ball together and develop together a continuum of options, of models, of service models, especially for those who are adults and elderly. And that's really important because these years stretch. It can be as long as 50 years, from 21 to 75 or 80, so they say. And I think much has to be done, and we need to do it together, families, government, voluntary organizations, professionals, to imaginatively and creatively, innovatively create a bigger option of and a continuum of service models that can cater to people of different severities and people from different financial backgrounds.
So give me an idea of what you mean by a service model for such individuals.
A service model, the traditional one is, look, if you can't work, then go to a day activity center where you spend 5 days a week from several hours, 4 to 6 hours, for instance, and then helped by a group of people who are willing to serve in this landscape.
And there was nothing beyond that, right?
Nothing beyond that. Also not imaginative. It's a very expensive model. Currently, I'm working with 2 centers, for example, at the void decks. So we studied, my volunteers and I, we studied the financial modeling and making sure that void decks cheaper. And then we have some staff who are a mix of staff so that we can afford the whole model for a longer time. And I think that's still one of the models. And I'm hoping to work with the agencies, for example, like NCSS, National Council of Social Services, or SG Enable, who are now all very active, hoping to develop with them respite services, for example, hoping to develop models beyond respite service, models where families who can get together, create models and help each other out, having a configuration of activities, of good quality of activities every day. So some of these models I'm really excited, eager to help build.
Let's talk about whether or not your career in politics has helped you help others more than when you weren't an MP. You mentioned earlier that you didn't even know that invitation to tea was actually a reason for the party to ask you to join politics. But you ultimately did say yes. Why?
I said yes because I thought at that time, and I wasn't sure, of course, until, it's been 9 years. I said yes, thinking that it might be a platform for me to contribute at a different level. I think execution is very important. Going to the ground is still very important. You need to go to the ground to be able to feel the pain, to know that, after somebody describes a dream, there's still so much work to be done on the ground, and it's so sometimes very difficult and painful. So the ground knowledge and ground feel is very important. But at a different level also, at the same time, not ignoring the ground, we need to be able to, if we want to help more people, politicians and others, we need to look at systemic interventions. What do I mean by that? I mean, documenting things that should be repeated, practices that are good, so that more people can know about it and you can repeat those practices, and then also learn from each other's mistakes, so that when you start something, a new center, a new school, a new whatever model, you don't have to start from scratch and make the same mistakes all over again.
Do you think we're doing enough of that?
And
are we not doing enough?
Politics or leadership positions allow some of that to happen. That some of us could then, and you need to have both courage and consideration to do that. Allow some of us to voice things at the systemic level, so that systems that are good, processes that are good, models that are good, can be scaled. And that's something I learned from the commercial sector where I came from. Scaling means being able to duplicate things that are good, so that more and more people can benefit in a more efficient and more effective way in a shorter time. So that's my interest systems.
Right. So far, do you think Singapore has done this successfully enough?
A lot better for this for special needs community. As I say, I tend to be impatient because every day the lives of the people I care for are ticking away, and the faster we do it, the better we do it, and of course the cheaper we do it, the better. So we are doing a lot more of that, not enough, and it takes a combination working at the systems level or policy level does not mean ivory tower work. Huh? We need to come to the ground, combine it with the ground knowledge, and then together, in fact, even getting people who may not be in this sector before to come together and brainstorm and think of new ideas and stretch our imagination, think out of the box, and look at different ways of doing it. So I do think that more has been done at a systemic level, not enough, but I'm very hopeful. I think the current batch of ministers, many of whom I work with together, Chun Seng, Heng Swee Keat, and Seman, and many of them are very helpful. And so I'm going to go for that and see how much more can be done.
Now, as mayor of the Central Singapore District, do you find that you have, greater capacity, you have a wider network to tap on?
Definitely. And not just as a mayor, as a member of parliament, my role is not just to represent the needs of the special needs community. I have a whole constituency to look after. We have, in my constituency, Kampong Glam, there are many elderly, a very high proportion, and many of them live in rental flats, for instance. And the same can be said of the Central District. Central District houses 1 million people in Singapore, one of the largest populations here. And 2/3 of the rental flats are located in the Central District.
Right. And many of them occupied by the elderly?
Elderly and
less financially well off.
Families with sometimes large families, many number of children. And beyond that, but it's also interesting because that's where the corporations are seated, the business district, the District 10, the high net worth people are there. So it's very exciting because it's a wonderful configuration to work with. Those who are more blessed in life should be blessing those who are less.
Have you seen them do enough?
Not do things to them.
Yes.
Many of them don't want pity, but do it together.
Right.
So
do you find that those who are more well off in Singapore society are doing enough for the less well off? Generally
at
speaking,
least those whom I know, and I work with people like them, and I think not enough know. To be fair, not enough of them know what's needed on the ground. So in Central Singapore, what we've done together, my team and I, we have actually decided to focus on 8 communities and causes, from kids, youth, adults to elderly, and then causes such as environment, arts, and special needs. And what we've done is really to try to outreach to as many people as possible, the businesses, those who are typically not non-grassroots, schools, the businesses, and the high net worth folks who are living in landed, for example, private estates, to come out and work with us and suggest together. So there are many of them who are interested, and we want everyone, whether you're rich or poor, to do good together and to do it together.
You did say that you want the district to be a do-good district. In fact, you have a do-good fund that residents can create and contribute to. You also have a new fund that residents can tap on for emergencies, an initiative to enable less academically inclined students as well. Tell me more about how pervasive do you think this do-good spirit can become in Singapore? In Singapore, where there are many skeptical, cynical people as well.
And some of them, have the right to be cynical because much of this information is not going out there yet. What are the opportunities for doing good? What are the chances that you will not get conned, but you're really addressing real needs? So it's people who, like us, my team and I, and others who are in the voluntary sector, who are on the ground, who will then have to articulate a lot more what's needed on the ground. And I think some of the least engaged are the adults, for example, who started working, and they're busy with their lives, building families, and and some of them want to contribute. So we need to let them know the opportunities. For Central Singapore, we've developed, just launched a suite of CS30, I call it Central Singapore 30, a list of programs and initiatives, and which we will invite constituents, businesses or individuals to join in and to help. And these are all addressing needs that have been validated. And so I hope many will come and join us for these do-good programs.
One of your projects is the Purple Parade event, which will be held at Hong Lim Park this Saturday. Tell us more about that.
Well, much like the Pink Dot, which is for the LGBT community, Yellow Ribbon for the ex-convicts, we are the Purple Parade addresses the community with special needs. And really, again, I said, I think this community does not want pity. We
Right.
just want to be included. We want this, the Purple Parade, the Purple Parade's mission is to support inclusion and to celebrate abilities of persons with special needs, not constantly just looking at them as people with disabilities, not looking at just what they can't do, but what they can do, and also celebrate them and highlight them in our country.
During the Our Singapore conversations, a lot of this was talked about Singapore being a more inclusive society. From there, do you think we've made any progress as yet, Denise?
I think very much. If you listen to the National Day rallies and some of the policy changes that have been made, even the Pioneer Generation and so forth, these are really outcomes from the many of the conversations held. I think, Andre, you were involved in some of them. I was
That's
involved,
right, yeah.
and you heard, and many of the, not everything, of course, can be addressed, but the elderly, honoring the elderly, healthcare costs, for example, education and so forth. These things are things that have been mentioned and are being addressed. And coming back to the Purple Parade, is on this Saturday. There's a movement. We have an annual gathering every year, and this year is at Hong Lim Park. I hope there'll be no other disturbances to Hong Lim Park.
We know what you're
incidents.
referring
Yeah.
to, yes.
And 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So everybody, please come. If you care for the special needs community, please turn up.
Would you have become a special needs advocate, Denise, if not for your son's condition?
Probably not. I was living a life that is very much like many Singaporeans. I had a good job, enjoyed my work, studied, enjoyed, and I was. My husband and I were relocated to several places, the US, China, for instance, to work. And we were made of offers and so forth, to work elsewhere and to migrate. And but because of our special needs son, we got to know how difficult it is. We got to know many, many families who are not as blessed as us. And so we just decided to stay on. And I'm so glad we did.
So how do you think other Singaporeans who perhaps don't have a personal stake in something like that can really become enthusiastic about such causes?
I wouldn't underestimate that. I work with a lot of people who themselves have no children with special needs, who just have a very good heart, and not just a heart. We need more than a heart. We very good heads and hands, willing to do, willing to think. And without them, in fact, I have a whole team together serving with me. And without them, I don't think what we have achieved in the last 10 years could have been achieved. So I don't think it needs someone with a special needs relative to be able to empathize. Many people are kind. Many people have good hearts in the right places, heads and hands all in the right places. And I'm very, very hopeful that together we can create even more.
If you're listening in now, tell us how hopeful you are. Give us a call, 669-11938. We're talking today with Member of Parliament for Moulmein Kallang GRC and Mayor of the Central Singapore District, Denise Phua. Next, we're going to be talking about her stance on gambling in Singapore. Stay with us on 938 Live. We'll continue after news and sports. What more can we do as a society for those with special needs? How strongly do you feel about gambling in Singapore? If you share an interest in any of these issues, call in and talk to our guest today, Member of Parliament for Moulmein Kallang GRC and Mayor of the Central Singapore District, Denise Phua, who has spoken about these issues very strongly in Parliament. Now, Denise, you once lamented how some people prefer to snap a picture of a poor person and post it online rather than help the person themselves or connect them to agencies that can help them. And I mentioned this because you also mentioned earlier that in your constituency, in your district, there are indeed very many people with needs. To what extent do you think people in Singapore have changed? Instead of just snapping the picture of a poor person and posting it online, they might now be more willing to help each other, if at all.
Bharati, I think the awareness is a bit higher now. It used to be a lot more of such postings instead of helping. I think posting it for to get more awareness, to get more people to help is a good reason. But most importantly, for me, the beneficiary is important, the person who needs the help. So just do whatever you can whenever you see someone in need within your circle of influence to do that. That's one at the action level. The other one really, again, as I've mentioned just now, I'm quite interested in systemic intervention so that more of these can be prevented. These needs can be addressed. So also at a different level, talk to, write to, tell your member of parliament, tell your minister in charge, that these things are happening and what can we do together, for example, to solve some of these issues. For example, we see a lot of old people, especially those who are low skilled, still doing physical jobs in the food centers, cleaning and so forth. What can we, and when I try to look for jobs for them with my colleagues and I and all the volunteers, we couldn't find jobs that might be suitable for them, and still they want to work. So can we together, for example, be part of a solution, and try to brainstorm, try to look at wherever you're from, industry, business, or just, somebody very innovative, think of ways by which we can create jobs, redesign jobs, for the elderly who are low skilled, so that we see less and less of them out in the food centers and hawker centers.
Do you have any ideas at this point? Do you personally have any ideas?
District, I've spoken to a few agencies. I think to be honest, the options are still not very innovative. So I've called together, trying to put together a think tank for people who are interested to help to see how we can live the lives of those who are elderly, seniors, and still working at physical jobs because they don't have any other skills. So if you're interested, also write to me at Central District and be part of that solution, thinking and creating options for our pioneers, our seniors.
Now, you've continued to speak out strongly against other issues as well. For instance, the casinos. You spoke up again in Parliament recently in the context of the Remote Gambling Act. A section of the Act allows Singapore-based operators to apply for an online gambling license. And you've, of course, taken issue with the exemption. You've said the government needs to take a bold step and reject gambling, whether remote or on-site. Why do you feel so strongly about this?
Well, I feel strong. I was very uncomfortable about the whole gambling and now remote gambling issue for several reasons. Many people think it's just for moral or non-economic. Yes, but also from an economic standpoint. My background is in human resource and marketing, and I'm very, very protective of the scarce manpower that we have in Singapore. And I just don't like the idea of every human resource, for example. Every human resource is a very precious asset resource to us, our country. And I just don't like the idea of diverting manpower to an industry that is not, I feel a casino product, for example, as a tourism product, is very easy replicable, especially by destinations or economies where there are much better, they have much more attractive destination attractions like natural waterfalls, beaches, and so forth, resorts. So it's very easy. It's a product that's quite easily duplicable or replicable. And I think we need to develop our own brand of tourism product. And what is wrong with, for example, positioning Singapore as a family destination, a place where it's great, it's safe, it's top quality, without casinos, a place that people can live, play, and visit. And I think that's the kind of branding that is possible for us to consider. And that's one. So that's for the economic reason. I do think that it's a very short-term strategy. We did it in 2005 because we needed the jobs, and we can't blame the policy makers, decision makers then, for doing that. But now it's time to really review that decision and see how we can together create and repaint and redraw a different vision. Morally, non-economic wise, the Chinese have a saying, 10 赌9输, 10 out of 10 people who gamble, 9 will lose. So it's a losing game. And for remote gambling, it's even worse. It's you can just gamble in your pajamas in your own bedroom, and the self-control is much less, and especially in a country that's so wired like us, for our students, I'm just very concerned about that. So I feel we should rethink the topic and together again brainstorm, see what's the pros and cons, and see how we can reposition this whole strategy. And just like making a statement on shisha, making a statement on extramarital affairs like the Ashley Madison case, but I think we should make a statement about this as well.
Speaking of shisha and all of that, don't you think we're a little over-regulated in Singapore? I mean, regulation is needed in many areas, but where do we draw the line? At which point do you think we should say, enough regulation, Singaporeans should learn how to make their own decisions based on their own conscience, their own wisdom?
I think so too. I think we people like us, for example, 3 of us in this station, we are not going to take policies or instructions just sitting down. We want to do our own thinking. And but having said that, I think there are some things in our country that we want to make a statement in. For example, is our family still the first port of call when things happen, or do we point it out to somebody, or do we hand our elderly parents, for example, to somebody else, to government, to VWOs to handle? you know, when we are able to do so ourselves. You know, do we make a statement about a healthy lifestyle, for example? You know, is shisha, cigarette smoking, is it bad? If it's really bad, then should we make a statement about that? Do we want to make a statement about extramarital affairs, that marriage is sacred, whoever we marry, and that we want to respect that? So some of these things we do need to, I guess, revisit some of these fundamental, what I call society rules of engagement, and decide for a country, and not be too ashamed about making statements about some of those things we feel strongly about.
But people might say,
just so we can go from being just a materially successful society to a significant one, where we can use all our resources and whatever we have to not just help make lives better for me and my family, but also for those who are beyond us.
But people might say, I'm capable of making these decisions myself. What the country and the government needs to do is give me the options.
I think so too. I mean, there are issues that I feel more options could be given. For example, for CPF, those, for example, who are able to take care of their funds and who might not want everything there, and who can prove, for example, they can be wise about how they use their money. You know, I think they should be given more options, for example. So there are issues we should sit down, and that's why I think we were talking just now that perhaps our Singapore conversation should still carry on, because there are issues that we believe that we can together, you know, be given the freedom to make options, choices about, and some we feel as a society we want to make a statement about.
Okay. Going back to the casino issue, to what extent do you think the government will indeed consider your suggestion to wean itself off the industry?
I think when there's enough voices, when there are enough options for government to consider, I just feel that platform is not yet there. Most of the time we were talking about these issues behind closed doors and without really very constructive options, enough options yet. And so we do need to gather a group, a think tank, and possibly again continue with our Singapore conversation to see how we can really transit and wean ourselves from these casino offerings to our country. And at the same time, you and I know that in Thailand, in Japan, some of these countries, they've looked at us for the last few years, and they themselves, the economies, are going to present competitive casino offerings, integrated resorts as well. So it's time also economically to think about how we can progress and move ahead of the curve in such tourism offerings.
You know, you've mentioned over the years that you would like to have Singaporeans think more deeply about the kind of society we want to live in. What kind of society do you want to live in?
I've always wanted to, and it doesn't matter whether I'm whatever position I have or work I do. I've always wanted to be part of something that is a bit more inspiring, where the dream, the vision is always not just about me and my family. I've read a book, an author who spoke about 3 levels of existence. One is the first level is really a survival level, where you just live on. Many people in the world, for example, live on US dollars, $2 a day, and that's barely surviving. So survival. The next level of existence is success, where materially you have a roof that's over your head, that's food on the table. In Singapore, you have schools to go to, you have your own flat, and so forth. So that's success to some people, holidays every year. And the third level is what this author calls significance. Significance means creating an impact beyond me and mine, using whatever resources I've been blessed with in my life, not just money, but my time, my other efforts, my talents, my past experiences and work, using those resources and making a difference, not just to me and mine, but to the country. And I think we can do this at individual level, at societal level, and also at country level. Singapore as a society needs to go beyond just being known for being economically successful. I think we should work towards being significant as well in this country. We are significant in various areas. We can do more as a country and together inspire others.
We've got someone joining us right now.
Hi, Yung.
Hi, morning.
Hi, morning.
I just got 2 quick comments. One, my organization, in one of my previous organizations, I used to co-staff with Denise, and I have no doubt that she is a very good MP, and I think today's episode reinforced that belief. Number 2, I doubt very much that despite the presence of a good platform or many voices coming together, the decision to retract gambling or casino will be taken, because one, I feel very strongly that the government or Singapore has run out of idea how to grow, and this is one this is probably the only idea for Singapore to continue to grow and increase the GDP. Within the few years that we have opened, I think we have managed to. Now our gambling market share in the world is just behind Las Vegas, which is very remarkable. Number two, I just felt a bit disappointed at the point of time when decisions were made to go into casino as well. One is my personal belief, my own religious belief. Two, to have one casino is probably still okay, but to have two was a bit shocking to me. I think the policy, the trend that I'm looking at now is probably government is prepared to look at number three also. So I think that is something that, much to the dismay of the population, some of the policy has to be taken because for the simple fact that we have run out of idea how to go.
If you had a chance to think of an idea, an alternative, what would it be, you?
No, I'm with Denise on this. That
Yes, I know you are, but if you could have control over an alternative to the casinos, what would you think of? What would you suggest?
No, I think F1 racing is probably a good idea. We can do something similar. There's no need for us to build a new track or a new stadium to do something similar. But casino, I feel, it's really dividing the nation right down the middle.
Right. Thank you very much for expressing that, Yung. Really appreciate it. I think you're right, Denise. Perhaps we need more of those Singapore conversations so that people can also speak up as well.
Yes, I think good ideas beget good ideas. So I think to continue the conversations, to brainstorm, it's something that will be really useful to look at. Looking at tourism products, looking at how to grow the economy. It's not that easy, especially in a very global, very competitive economy now. And I think all of us, and with more and more of us educated, concerned, and we love our country, I'm more hopeful than Yong, and I will invite Yong to join us in looking at how we should be as a society, as a country, as an economy in the next phase.
Thank you very much, Denise. Denise Phua, Member of Parliament for Mormon and Kallang GRC and Mayor of the Central Singapore District. Thanks for joining us today on Talkback.